AgWeek Weather is sponsored by Bremer Bank. Connect with a banker today at bremer.com.
Has spring officially sprung? Here's John with our Agri-weather outlook.
Spring marches on, and as we get toward the latter part of April, climatologically, we just get to that point in the year where the cold air that comes in and out of the north just doesn't have the punch that it did earlier. You can still be cold enough for snow, but you're not going to see it getting down to 10 degrees or 10 below or anything like that anywhere except up in the high mountains, and even that's becoming much less likely. So April advances. What are we looking at as we get into spring planting season across much of the region, much of the northern U.S. in fact? The soils in the Corn Belt and the northern plains a little bit drier than average, though with the weather pattern I'm seeing, not great cause for concern. Not saying there won't be areas that have a little stress when those seeds first go in the ground. I'm just seeing those timely rains, at least for the time being. Let's hope that that kind of weather pattern continues. Jet stream right now, the polar jet comes in, kind of splits a little bit around a low in the southwest, but it's mostly inhabiting about the northern latitudes of the United States, southern Canada. Subtropical jet stream is a little bit weaker right now, and that is staying mostly down south. Starting to see some warm air intruding into the Great Plains this weekend, but with this trough coming out, that's quickly going to die down. We'll get some cooler weather dropping down into the U.S., but the freezing air is going to remain mostly Canadian and Rocky Mountain. I don't see a lot of freezing air into the U.S., maybe a little bit in Maine. This ridging activity that we're seeing over the eastern U.S. midweek is going to push some pretty warm air. A lot of this big blob of 80s going to try to make it into the northeast over the next several days, and by the end of the week, going to be pretty consistent 70s and a few 80s there, 80s and a few spots up around 90 down south. A little bit of a push of freezing weather toward the Great Lakes, Lake Superior, but I just don't see it penetrating much down into the U.S. A lot of the week in the northern Great Plains, though, will be quite cool. By that, I mean a lot of days where it's only in the 40s and the 50s. This trough will eventually relax a little bit, and as we go on toward the second week, really the last full week of April, we're getting toward the end, the pattern is weakening a little bit, and the second week of this forecast period should see a gradual return of warmer weather and mainly drier weather over most of the Great Plains and the Corn Belt. Precipitation this week, early in the week, big storm lifting out that'll bring some rain to the eastern Dakotas and Minnesota. That'll turn to snow further north up into Canada. And then later in the week, there will be a weather system mostly as rain that will bring some thunderstorms, turning into more general rains in the northeast. The Pacific Northwest, it's really going to be mostly Canada and the far Pacific Northwest. The second week of the pattern, April 21st to 27th, is looking a little quieter. A few storms in the south and mid-south, but most of these rains not expected to be as heavy, and probably just stray showers in the north.